Alright guys, welcome back to Homestead Prepping and Survival. What I'm showing you is a solar powered rechargeable light. It's indoor or outdoor. I put 3 of these in my little house. And what it does is it changes colors there in the middle while it's charging during sunlight and so on. So it lights up pretty good. Let me grab the remote and I'll show y'all what I'm talking about. So thing's pretty doggone bright, and you've got a low setting as well. I don't know if you can tell the difference on the video, but anyway, it's pretty bright. I put one of these in my kitchen, one in my living room, and one in my bathroom, and they each have their own little solar panel. So they last about 8 hours roughly, on high of course, and when the batteries start getting weak it'll automatically switch to low, so it'll last even longer than that. But it's not part of my off-grid power, but it's a backup way of having lights even when the grid's down or I'm having trouble with my off-grid power. Alright, so now I've moved to, this is my, as you can see on there, automatic transfer switch. What it does is, I've got this thing hooked up. You can use it in either direction. The way I've got it connected is, it's wired from my panel box in the house to my off-grid power. And basically I run on off-grid power, and if it senses the temperature, or the voltage, sorry, of the battery bank lower than what I've got it set for, it automatically switches back to grid power, so I don't ever lose power. It transfers so fast you don't even notice the lights blink. But that's just another thing that I bought recently that I've installed that helps me, keep from being without power when I need it. Alright, so there's a picture of my solar panels. I've got 10 panels. 9 are 100 watt 12 volt panels, and one of them's 140 watt 12 volt panel, which you see it on the left top edge there. And I may end up adding more later, but right now that's 1,000+ watts in full sunlight, which today is completely overcast, but in full sunlight it's 1,000+ watts, and translates down to pretty good amperage as far as getting my battery bank charged, and we're going to move to that next. Alright, so now we're in my battery supply room, or power supply room. What I've got there are 5 205 amp hour batteries. They're maintenance free. You don't have to come back and add water or any of that stuff. And my charge controllers and things will desulfate them and do all of that so that they last longer. All the reviews I read on these before I bought them about a year ago, they're getting 10 to 15 years out of these batteries, and they are very expensive, but 10 or 15 years versus the price, you divide that up, like I've said in another video or talking to my buddies, you do not want to buy the Walmart deep cycle batteries and start with that. It's just going to cause you more problems, down the road. They're not going to last. They're not going to put out the power that you need. And so anyway, I did upgrade to these, and let's see what's next. All right, so this is one of my inverters. As you see, it's 3,000 watts continuous, 6,000 watt peak, and I can pretty much run 98% everything on my property, house, outbuildings, everything, off of this. The only thing I can't run is my well, which is 240 volts, and my dryer. And I'm going to be upgrading inverters in the near future, I hope. So when that happens, I'll do a video on it and show it. But right now, this is what I've been using, and it does all right. I can get by when I need to. All right, and just a little added bonus. You see I've got a little 6.5 horse side shaft motor there with a pulley on it and belt, driving this, what we call a one-wire GM alternator. Put a push button on there to activate the regulator. If you don't do that, it just automatically does 75 amps, which is its max. But I can hook this up, run that motor about quarter throttle or even a little less, and help it charge my battery bank if I need to in bad weather, or storms, that kind of thing. For whatever reason, I can't get enough power from the solar. This is just another way to back it up. All right, so that's just a quick overview. Solar panels, batteries, um, alternate ways to charge those batteries. Trying to think what else. You know, the extra solar lights that I've put in, so I can use those even if the grid's down or if my battery bank is weak or anything goes on. I've still got those lights to back up, and they actually light up the house pretty good. One thing I didn't video was the charge controllers. So the way the system works is I start with the solar panels. You mount those where you want to put them, and that power that the sun produces through those panels goes into a charge controller that is kind of like a regulator in your alternator. So it controls how much power is being put into your batteries. It'll prevent from overcharging the batteries, and it's going to maintain them at the proper voltage. It's going to stop them from being overcharged, and it's going to, you know, take a lot of the hassle out of it. But I've got 4 charge controllers, 30 amps each. I break up those panels up top in evenly into those charge controllers so that I don't lose any power. The last thing I want to do is overload a charge controller and not be able to get the power that I'm producing into my battery bank. So if I bought the panel, I just don't want to waste any of that power. So I'll break it up to where I'm well below the rated load of it so that I'm getting every drop of power out of them. Also, if one fails, I can add more to either one to get me by until I replace it. So that charge controller is what actually regulates the amount of charge going into the batteries. Your batteries are just like any other battery. They sit there and they hold that power that's coming into them for a period of time until you need it. So your inverter that I showed you will take that power from the battery and invert it back into an AC voltage that you can run in your house. Now that inverter is 120 volts. My entire house, except for the dryer and my well, is 120 volts. I built this little house specifically to run off of the power that was cheaply available for me to produce. So I can run, my water heater is 120 volts. So I can run, that's why I use window units instead of a central heating and air unit, even though that's what I do as for a job, as for a living, heating and air. But I don't have that in my house because I can run my air conditioners in my outbuildings. I've got 3 other buildings that have window unit air conditioners in there. I can run any of those air conditioners that I need to off of my off-grid power as well as my house. So even when the grid power is down and I switch over and use my off-grid, I'm just as comfortable as I would be on the grid as long as I can keep the batteries charged. So typically that happens in bad weather, so you need an alternative way to charge in battery banks, and that would be that little motor and alternator that I showed you. You can also park your vehicle there since it's a 12-volt system. Now I know a lot of people do 24 and 48 volt, and it does have a lot of more advantages, but that's just not the path I chose. But I can park my vehicle right beside the room. I can hook up jumper cables from my truck and put some fire back into my off-grid panels when I need to, if it was an emergency. As well as that alternator and that motor charging, I can pretty well get my battery bank charged in a matter of about 4 hours with that little alternator and that motor. Also, backup generator, which the generator I have will pretty much run. There's a few things it won't, but it'll pretty much run my entire property. The dryer, if you're running anything else, it will not run that. But I can run my well, of course, and everything else on the property off of my generator if I needed to. So while that generator's running, it's also helping charge my battery bank for my off-grid solar. So you've got to think along the lines as far as prepping is concerned. The old saying is 1 is none and 2 is 1. So you need a backup in order to have anything. If you only had a book of matches to start a fire and they got wet, you have no way to start a fire. But if you've got that book of matches and a ferro rod, magnesium ferro rod or whatever it is, you know, and strike it and start a fire that way, or a Bic lighter or Zippo lighter, you know, They've got the little ones now that's got the little arc in them that you can start fires with. There's so many different ways to do that, but you need more than one way to do anything, and therefore I plan on adding a wind turbine to my system, and that will help support the charge going into my batteries during bad weather, because the wind's usually blowing when storms come through and you're not getting a lot of sunshine. So that wind turbine is going to help me get a little bit more self-reliant to where I don't have to depend on just sunshine and nice weather to be off the grid. I've also got everything that I need now except for the framing part of the lumber to build a water tower on my property. I'm going to build a water tower, and I've got the storage tanks and all. It's going to hold 550 gallons. It's going to be between 15 and 20 feet off the ground. So I'm going to use my well to fill those tanks, of course, when I've got power or when I'm running my generator. And then I will gravity feed water into my property, the house and everything. So that way I don't have to have power all the time and I've still got water. That, you know, just a backup way to supply water even when there is no power. So just a few things for y'all to think about. I got to move back around to the other side of the camera because it won't let me flip it back and forth while I'm doing a video. I haven't learned how to do that yet, or either my phone won't let me do that. So anyway, I thank y'all for watching. Be safe. I love y'all. See you on the next video.